Okay, dear students, we were discussing chapter number 2, that is all about our database connectivity. Fine. So till now, if you look at that, what we have seen, or you can say that what we have gone through, that is like what is database connectivity and how exactly it works. So we have seen that we want to actually develop a certain kind of Java application which will interact with our database. Fine. So technically you can say that every application would always require to connect with the database. So here we want to develop a certain Java application which can interact with DBMS, which will ideally use a JDBC drivers. So for that, first of all, we have looked at the architectures, like we are developing, you can say that a certain kind of let me just take a certain pen. We are developing certain kind of application which will use a JDBC API, means your java.sql package, and that SQL package will interact with JDBC driver manager. That driver manager will interact with the driver, and driver at the end of day going to interact with your database. So see, technically this is what we are learning over here. Fine, this is our learning part, and these all things are already exist. But the fact is what in our syllabus, we have one more thing, that is, or we have one theoretical part, that is type of driver. So in a very much detail we have gone through the type of driver, that is like a 4 types of driver that has been evolved: type 1, type 2, type 3 and type 4. So these drivers are like type 1 JDBC ODBC driver, type 2 that is native API driver, type 3 that is your middleware server, and type 4 that is your pure Java driver. In a very much detail we have gone through a advantage and disadvantage of each type of driver, and this is very much important questions in terms of technical interview, in terms of theoretical exam, as well as your practical viva. Fine. So we have gone through advantage, disadvantage of types of or each type of drivers over here. Fine. Now see, then again, if we focused over here in our application, so we are considering Oracle as a database, right? The database for all our experiment we are considering, that is a Oracle, and one SQL developer tool that what we are using to, you can say that, a particular manage our database, right? So here what we are doing, using a SQL developer, we can connect with our database and we can see our tables and those all things. Fine. Now we are consider that we have seen. So now again let me just show you the SQL database which we are actually SQL developer which we are using, fine, to interact with our database. So let me just recall you and remind you how we are using. So this is our SQL developer, fine, that what we have seen. This is again one kind of Oracle product. Once you start a SQL developer, you can create any test connections, and we have developed our database. So see, till now in a campus we are using this to interact with our database. Each student has their own username and password. Let me just show you. This is your username, this is your password. Now see, over here this is your particular remote IP 119.160.199.94 to interact with your Oracle database. So with your username and password, and by providing this IP, you can interact with your database. Just test the connection. If it shows you a success, right, then you can click on, you can say that, a connect button. Now see, you are connected with your database, right? So here you can expand your database simply like this. Fine. Whatever table that you have created, that table will be available over here. You can see your table. Fine, this is your table. You can also see the data within a table, that you can see. Fine, that all things we have seen till now. So like using you can say that using a SQL developer, we are managing our particular database. Then we have looked towards, you can say that, a Java application that have to develop a Java applications. Fine. So for that, we have actually developed an entire framework that we have a basically 5 step. Step number 1, you can say that have to load a driver, right? You can load a driver, then you can say that you can establish the connections. Fine. Afterwards, you can create a statement. Using a statement, you will fire a query to the, you can say that, fire a query towards your table, and your table is going to respond based on your query. Fine. Now whatever is your response, that depends on your query, and then we are going to, you can say that, then we are going to process our response. This is completely depends on what, you can say that it depends on your query type. So we have seen that what kind of code we need to write down, right? So to load a driver, you have to call a method class.forName, and then you can say that using sun.jdbc, or you can give your type of drivers. Mostly we are using a type 4 driver, so you need to provide the driver over here. Fine. Afterwards, what we are doing, that step 2, that is establish the connection. So we are generally using something like driver, or you can say that we are using driver manager.get connection. So using this, you can establish the connections, right? And this will give you, or you need to pass a URL, username and password. Then step number 3, that using, you can say that once you have a, in a step number 2, you will get a connection object. Once you have a connection object, you can call a create statement object. Now based on your create statement object, you can say that you can either call a execute query method or execute update method. So if you have a normal select query, then you can call a method that is called execute query. If you have insert, update, or you can say that delete kind of method, in that case you can use a method that is called execute update, right? Now execute update will return you can say that integer value, and this integer value, that is ideally, you can say that represent the number of records get affected within your table. Now when you say that execute query, that will technically return you a result set. So that what we have seen, that once you have a result set, fine, you can traverse the result set by calling rs.next method, and by calling a getString column number or column name, you can retrieve your data from the table. So technically result set represent a virtual table within your particular, you can say that, a RAM. Okay, or within your application, it represent a particular, you can say that, virtual table. Now see over here, your step number 5, that you are going to close the connection. Fine. So if you look at your entire chapter, that is divided within this 5 steps. We have gone through details of driver, what all types of drivers are available. We have looked at the 3 kind of connection method, like driver manager.get connections, URL, username and password. Then you can say that driver manager.get connection and your property file. That what we have seen. Now we have last time in our last session, we have focused on a statement part. Okay, so before we look at the statement part, or you can say that, let me just show you a code that we have gone through till now. Okay, so over here, if you can recall, look at this, like using my step number 1 class.forName, I will load my Oracle driver. Then you can say that connection driver manager.get connection, my URL, username and password that I am going to provide. Fine. Then I will say that connection.create statement. Okay, that will give me a statement. Now based on my statement object, I'll either call a execute query or execute update method. So suppose I'm calling like select star from student. So when I say that execute query, that will give me a result set, right? So if I want to process the result set, something like rs dot next, then system.out.println, and I'm printing all the columns over here. Now again I will go to the next row and so on. When I say that rs.next means if I have a next row exist within my virtual table, then it will return true or else it will return a false. So now if I'll try to run this, look at the table. This is my table. Now using my Java program that I am trying to retrieve this table. Fine. So when this will be executed, whatever is your table, those old data, you can retrieve it over here. Now same way we have seen that using a statement object, right? Once you have a statement object, you can retrieve a data by calling a execute query method. If you want to perform a insert, update and delete method, then you can say that execute update, and then you are going to call a update method, insert method or delete method. These all experiment that you people have already done, right? Now see, last time in our last session, what we were discussing, we are exploring, you can say that a statement part. Okay, so within a statement part, we have looked at the three kind of statement. One is a statement, another one is prepared statement, and third one, that is a callable statement. Now see, last time we have discussed the difference between statement and prepared statement. So you can say that technically statement can perform, or prepared statement, both are able to perform a equal task, but the difference is in terms of performance. So you can say that whenever you have a similar query, and if you want to execute for multiple time, then you can say that it is preferable to use a prepared statement instead of statement object. Again, see, look at this. If you look at over here in a PPT, I have given in all the complete details the difference between statement and prepared statement. Even if you have any doubts, you can refer to my last video that is specifically on a prepared statement. But at a glance, I can say that if every time your query is changing, right, then either you are using a statement object or you are using a prepared statement object, it will not make any difference. But the fact is what, if you have a similar query and if you are going to, or if you want to execute it for a multiple time, then you should technically go with the prepared statement object. So last time we have looked at a program for a prepared statement as well. Let me just quickly go through it. Again, see, if you look at over here, your 80% of code will always remain a same, right? This is like step 1, I will load the drivers. Step 2, I will establish the connection. Then you can say that step 3, that instead of statement object, look at over here, what we were doing, connection.create statement. Over here, what we are doing, connection.prepared statement, and we will provide our argument over here or our query at this place also. So afterwards, I can say either execute query based on my query type if it is select, or I can say that, you can say that execute update, prepared statement dot execute update, right? And I can execute it. But the fact is what, in terms of either you use a statement or prepared statement, your 80% of code mostly will remain the same. In a very much detail, this topic we have discussed in my previous video, that is for a prepared statement. Fine. So I request, if you have any doubt over here in this topic, then you can go through it. So till now we have gone through a two-part statement, one that we have referred, that is a statement, right? Another one, that is a prepared statement. Now third one which we are going to discuss today, that is all about a callable statement. So see, callable statement. So generally in a database we have a concept of stored procedures. Like in any of our programming language like C, C++, Java, .NET, we are creating different methods, or you can say that different functions, right, to perform a certain task. Now similar way, on a database you can create a procedures. So what is the purpose of these procedures? That it is ideally a collection of SQL statement, and when you want to execute those collection of statement, at that time we are technically using, you can say that, a stored procedures. So you can directly execute that stored procedures, and whatever are the statement or you can say that SQL statement which you have written within a stored procedures, that will be executed. Fine. Let me show you one very simple example of, you can say that, one procedure. Look at this. This is one example of a stored procedures, like create or replaced procedure, insert data. So look at this. This is my syntax, right? And this insert data, that is my procedure name. Now it will take three argument, like a roll number, name, and address. Okay. And like our opening and closing curly brackets in a method, here we are using a begin and end statement. So in between here I have just write a one, you can say that I have just write a particular one SQL statement, but the fact is what, you can write down a multiple SQL statement over here. I have just write down a one statement, like insert into student values, whatever argument that you will provide into a roll number, name, as well as into a address, that argument I am going to insert in my student table, right? So now if you want to insert a record into a student table, you do not need to fire an insert query, but instead of that you can directly call this particular insert data procedures, and then you can insert your record into a student table. Now see, let's go to our actual database, means our SQL developer. Okay, fine. Look at this over here. Now in your connection you will have one option that is called procedures. Fine. From here what you can do, you can simply do a right click and create a new procedures. So here you can give your procedure name, your parameter that you want to pass, something like this, and you can create one new procedures. Once you click on OK, it will create a procedure, blank procedures. So I have already created one procedures. Let me just show you. Just a minute. Okay, let's create one new procedures. Your database connection has been reset. Any pending transactions? Okay, let me just refresh it. Don't I know. Okay, so this is the way it will create the procedures. Fine. Let me just refresh it. Okay, connect. Don't want to save. Let connect. Fine. Now let me again go to the procedures. Fine. Look at this. One procedure that I have created, that is a insert data. So look at these procedures, like a create or replace procedures, that is all are the keyword. Now insert data, that is a procedure name. It takes a three parameter, like parameter name, parameter roll number, parameter address. Fine. Then begin and end, it's something like, you can say that opening and closing curly brackets. In between, what you can do, you can write down the SQL, multiple SQL statement. So whenever you call these insert data procedures, right, what you can do, like this procedure will be executed. It contains the statement insert into student, that is my student table, which I have over here. If you can see this, right, this is my one student table. So here it will like do insert into student values, and whatever parameter name, parameter roll number, parameter address, that value you will pass over here, that one record will be inserted into my student table. Look at this. So over here it is ideally going to insert my record. Now what is our goal using a callable procedures, right? Or you can say that using a callable statement. So over here, what we want to achieve, like are using a third type of statement, that is a callable statement, that whatever are the stored procedures that we actually want to call from our Java application. From our Java application, we want to call that stored procedures, these procedures, and that we want to execute. And for that, we are using a concept that is called callable statement. Fine. I hope till now everybody is clear. Creating a procedure, simply right click on a procedures, new procedures, you can give a name of procedures and the parameters. Now see, if you look at over here that in terms of, you can say that creating a procedures, so sometime we have a question, sir, why we are creating a procedures on a database side. So see, generally what happened that so many time we are creating a procedures for auto performance of task. Let's consider like SBI bank, that they are maintaining one transaction table, and the requirement is what, that every night that transaction table will be backed into another table, so your transaction table will be ready or fresh on a next day. So now no one is manually going to perform this task. Fine. So what they do, they create one stored procedures which will take a data or write down a certain kind of, you can say that SQL statement that will you can say that write down between your logic or logic between begin and end. So it will take a data and it will insert the data into another table. Fine. So they will schedule the procedure, stored procedure, that at the midnight 12 o'clock this code will be executed. It will take a backup of transaction table, and for next date the transaction table is ready. So that way stored procedures and functions are going to use multiple place when you are working with the certain real kind of projects. Now what we want to achieve, that from our Java application we want to call this particular stored procedures. So look at this over here. First of all, that suppose over here you can say that this is your procedures. Now if you look at the callable statement, right, and again your code, then technically your code will remain as it is. Fine. Like we are going to load the driver, we will establish the connection, and then we are going to create, you can say that instead of statement object or instead of prepared statement object, using a connection object, we will create a callable statement object. Fine. So something like this, callable statement CS is equal to connection dot prepared call. You can call a insert data. Now here you can put a 3 question marks. Fine. So what exactly we are doing, you can write down a certain hard coded value over here, or you can also, you can say that set these 3 parameter later on. So I am doing something like this, callable statement dot set integer 1 comma 12, right? So that will be something like my roll number, name and address, that parameter I have set. Now previously what we were doing, that using a callable statement we were calling a method something like, you can say that using a statement or prepared statement object, we were calling a method like execute query or execute update. Over here we are going to call something like callable statement dot simply execute. So when I say that callable statement dot execute, this method is ideally going to call your stored procedure, which is a insert data, right? Insert data, and it will pass these 3 parameter to the insert data procedures. This is over here, like roll number, name and address, and your record will be inserted into a table. Let's try to understand this entire concept via one kind of demo program. So look at this. This is my one code. I have taken one class that is called stored procedures, which contains one public static void main method. Now look at again, our program format is same. Step 1, I will load the driver. Step 2, I am going to establish the connection, like driver manager.get connection, my URL, then my username and my password. So now if this line will able to establish the connection, then I will get a connection object. Now see, Previously what we were doing, that once we have a connection object, like in terms of prepared statement, we say that connection dot prepared statement. In a statement, we say that connection dot create statement. Over here, once you have a connection object, you will say that connection dot prepared call, and that will technically give you a callable statement object. Now see, once you have a callable statement object, so in a prepared call, what you are going to pass? First of all, you have a round bracket, then in a double inverted comma, and in a curly brackets, you will write down this statement that is called call, your procedure name, and you are going to mention a parameter list. Now see, here you can give a hard-coded value, keep in mind, right? You can write down a hard-coded value, or you can set this value later on. So if you want to set this value later on, simply you can put a question mark, like your insert data is taking a 3 parameter, so I have put a 3 question marks. Now later on, what exactly I am doing, look at this. I'm just making one entry, something like I'm setting my first parameter, that is called, you can say that set string, my name, something like demo entry, that is my name, right? Then I will say that my roll number is 692123, or let's give something like 24, fine. And you can say that my address, that is a demo address. Okay, look at this, this is my demo address. Now see, ideally what happened, that when I set this all the parameter, so it's something like this, that insert data, right? First argument will be like demo entry, second will be my roll number 692124, and third argument, that is my address. Now whenever I say that callable statement dot execute query, or sorry, over here it will be not like execute query or execute update. I just need to call one method that is called execute. So when I say that cs.execute or callable statement object.execute, it will call a insert data procedure. So look at this, this is my insert data procedures, right? Which will take first of all name, roll number, and address. So now whatever parameter that I have set over here, like my first argument will be demo entry. Okay, so you can say that over here this p name will have a value that is called demo entry. Then I will have something like this, enrollment number 692124. Okay, so my roll number or p roll number will have 6962, that number will be over here. And the third parameter that I am passing, that is a demo address, right? So my third parameter will be my demo address. Now see, ideally what happened, that I have called this procedure with these 3 arguments. So whatever these 3 value that you have set over here, your statement become like this: call insert data, demo entry 692124, that is your roll number, and demo address. And then you are calling the execute query or execute method, callable statement dot execute. So it will call this procedure with these 3 parameters. Now see how I am utilizing this value, right? So these 3 parameter I got as an argument from a Java application. So I'm writing down one statement like insert into student value. So whatever are the value in a p name that I want to put over here, whatever are the value in the p roll number that I want to put over here, whatever are the value in a p address that I want to put over here. So your statement at the end of day, this statement will be something like this: insert into student values, demo name 6962, that is your roll number, and demo address, that will be like this. So see, this is something like your local parameters that you are using within your functions, normal either C, C++ or Java. So that way I can use this particular 3 parameters within my application. So based on your procedures, you can set a parameter. Maybe your procedure have a 1 parameter, maybe your procedure have 5 parameter, maybe your procedure does not have any parameter. Fine. So now if you look at over here, this is my table. Fine. Look at the table. Okay. So this is my table. Now this table technically does not contain, you can say that, any name with something like a demo, okay, that we are setting over here, something like demo entry, okay, that kind of table record we do not have. Now what I am going to do, I am going to run this particular code, okay. So let me just execute the code over here, run as a Java application, right? So I have run this particular, just let me save it. Okay, let me just run my application. Fine. So this program has been executed. Now see, over here you will not get any output. The reason is what? We are not actually typing down, or we are not printing anything on our program, okay. So technically what happened, that you will not get any message over here. Fine. So ideally what we are doing, that we are calling a insert data procedure, and that procedures will insert one, or this is my procedure, this procedure will insert that particular record. So if you are going to refresh this particular table, okay, again the connection get reset. Let me just connect again. Let me just connect it. Test the connection. Let's just connect it. Okay, so let's just look at this. Okay, let me just expand. Fine. So now we were looking towards the procedures. This is our insert data procedures. And another thing that we will look at, that is a student table. So we have executed our code, and now if you go to the data, right, so here you should able to find out that particular demo entry. Look at this, okay. If you look at over here, we have that particular demo entry with that roll number and with that address. So see, ideally what we want to tell over here, that we are not directly calling a particular, you can say that, or we are not directly inserting this particular record, but what we are doing, that we are calling this particular stored procedures, and this stored procedures is ideally going to enter the data into my table, and for that we need to use a callable statement. Right. So I hope all of you are clear the purpose of callable statement, that you can say that the purpose of callable statement is using that you can call the stored procedures. Now see, here you need to understood the purpose of, you can say that, statement and prepared statement, that is all about calling a individual query, right, like insert, update, delete, select. Those all query you can use, or those all query you can use execute either using a statement object or using a prepared statement object. But the functionality of callable statement is completely different. It is going to, you can say that, call the stored procedures. Now let's try to explore it more in this PPT, like a few things that we want to understood in a more detailed way, that is for a callable statement. Look at this side. First of all, what they are, okay, this is little bit part of on a database side, but that we need to understood to implement the functionality. So look at this. What they are telling, that whatever is the stored procedures, it has a 3 type of parameter, or you can say that a parameter again have a 3 different mode. See, look at this. Suppose, let me show you one very simple way, that here I have one main function. So it has a 2 things. each parameter will always have a two part. One, that is a data type of that particular parameter, and parameter name. Same way, if you look at the stored procedures, then it has a little bit in a reverse way, like parameter name and its data type. But in between, this is one important keyword that is called in. So what these people are telling in terms of stored procedures, that your parameter have a three different mode, right? One, that is a in, another one that is a out, and third one that is a in out mode. Now what this mode tells, let's try to understand. Right now, by default, if you are not writing down anything, the mode will be in. What it means? Means, suppose I have this procedure, right? Suppose I am not writing down this in over here, then still I will not get any error. It means what? Suppose if I am going to compile this stored procedure, let me compile it. Okay, so it will be compiled. It is not giving any error. So this by default, any parameter within, you can say that by default any parameter in a stored procedure will always have a in mode. Now let's try to understand the mode, right? That what is in, what is out, and what is in out. See, in mode means what? That you are, or these all three parameter are just going to pass inside the procedures. That is called a in mode, right? Now another mode is over here. If you look at the another mode, then that is a out mode. Okay, so what is a out mode? See, look at this. When you are creating a procedures like your normal method in a C, C++ and Java, procedure does not have any return type. Okay, if you look at it, is just like create or replace procedure and then your procedure name. So this procedure does not have any return type. Now what if you want a certain data back from the procedures, that at the end of procedures it will process some data and you want to retrieve a certain information from the procedures. So now at that time, what you need to do, that you need to declare your variable as an out variable. Fine, that you need to do. Means you have to declare your variable type as a out. So ideally what happened, that whenever I am creating a procedures, instead of this in, I will write down a out. Okay, let me now show you. So see, try to understand very simple way, that in means what? I am passing a data into a procedures. Okay, means my parameter will just carry a certain information that will be used by the procedure. Now out parameter means what? That while I am calling a procedures, I'll not pass any data. Okay, but at the end of that particular procedures, my out parameter will contain a certain information, and that information I want to use in my program. Okay, so it's a kind of return value from that procedure. So here we do not have any kind of return type, so we will pass a special parameter with its mode as an out. Okay, let me show you in a very detail with one very simple example. Fine, let's consider, or let's create one new table first of all. So let's consider that I have one new table. Fine, let me give a name of the table as a something like, you can say that bank. That is my table, right? Now here I will have something like customer name, CUST name, that data type is varchar. Another column that I would like to add something like account number. Okay, that is, and I'll give a data type as a something like number. Another column that I will add, that is something like let me tell BL balance. Okay, so this data type is also number. Now see, after giving this data, when I click on a OK, then technically it will create one bank table. Look at this bank table. Okay, so this is my bank table. Right now the bank table have a customer name, account number and balance. Okay, so it does not have any data. Let me just insert a certain data over here. AB's customer name as a ABC, account number is 1 and balance is something like, you can say that 23,000. Okay, now again I will insert one more record, something like name is equal to XYZ, account number is 5 and balance is something like 2400, right? I'll add again one record, something like name is equal to my account, my name. Okay, my account number is something like 13 and balance is something like, you can say that 10,000 rupees. So now let me just commit it. I hope that all of you know this, how to create this particular table. You have already created this kind of table, right? So what I did, I have created one particular table, fine, where it has a customer name, account number and balance. Now what I want to do, that I want to create one stored procedures. Now these stored procedures will take a account number as an input and it will, in a return, it will give you a balance for that particular account number. Say it's something like that. Nowadays if I want to check the balance in my account, then I have a mobile number, right? I will just give a missed call and I'll get a balance. So similar way, like if you have an account number, then I want to retrieve a particular, you can say that, a balance for that particular account. And now fine, definitely you can write down one method, something like, or one query, select star from bank table where account number is equal to this. That's all. So it will give you one record with a particular account number and you can extract your balance. That you can always do. But what we want to understood over here, that I'm going to call up stored procedures, and stored procedures will retrieve that data and that procedure will return that data back to my functions or back to my Java program. So how can I do that? So for that, what I will do, like I'll create one stored procedures that is called a get balance. Look at this, new procedures. Let me give my procedure name. Okay, this is my procedure name, that is called get balance. Let me add a parameter. So here we are going to work smartly little bit, something like this. This is my parameter, right? So I say that account number, that is my one parameter, and account number, its mode I am going to keep as a only in, because this value I'm going to pass from, you can say that, particular my program. Okay, so this data type name I have keep it as a in. Now I will say add another parameter that is called, you can say that, okay, let me tell that amount. Okay, now this data type I am going to declare as a out. Okay, so now if you, when I click on a OK, so it will create one stored procedures. Look at the stored procedure, that create or replace procedures, get balance, account number, that is my in parameter, and amount, right, that is my out parameter. Now see, now what exactly I want to write down over here in a logic, right? So if you look at over here, that when you are using a out parameters, okay, so look at this, like I want to create or replace this kind of procedures where select balance into amount from bank where account number is equal to this. So look at this here, how I will write down, like select, what is, now look at this table. Okay, so I want to store or retrieve this value, so I will write down select balance into right? Your select balance into which variable? Into a amount variable. I want to store a balance. So amount from which table? From bank table. Okay, where you can say that what is my condition. So you can say that over here the account number where number is equal to whatever value that you are going to provide over here, that is called account number is equal to ACNO. Fine. Now see, this procedure I'm not going to execute from here. I'm just going to save these procedures. I'm just going to compile it. Okay. So look at this. This procedure has been compiled without any error. Now see how exactly it will work, that we need to understood. When you call these stored procedures get balance, you will only pass a account number. You are not going to pass a amount because it is a out parameter. Is that clear? So now see, now what exactly I'm going to do over here, that I'll pass a account number. So this will work like this: select balance into amount. So whatever is this value, balance value, that will be stored into a amount variable from bank table where account number is equal to this. So whatever account number that you will provide, that balance value will be stored into a amount. Now as I am declaring this variable as an out variable, whatever value at the end of your procedures that is available within this particular amount variable, that I will able to retrieve. Look at this. See, this is my procedures. Fine. Now how I can call? Simply like this, that we have this. Okay, let's go through a code as well, that will make us more clear. Again, step 1, loading a driver. Step 2, establish the connection, right? Your URL, username, password. Step 3, that creating a callable statement. So connection dot prepared call. Okay, so now I'm calling a method that is called a get balance, and 2 parameter. It has a 2 parameter, so I have a 2 question mark. Now look at this. What I am doing, that whatever are the first question marks, that I set with value 3. So it's something like call get balance, and 3 will be replaced with here, right? First question mark. Now the second question marks that you are going to use, okay, we are not going to set the value, we are not going to pass the value over here. The reason is what? It is a out parameter. So after end of the procedure, I will retrieve certain certain information from this parameter. So I need to register out my parameter number 2. So look at this. What I am doing, using a callable statement, I'll say that register out parameter 2. Fine. And its data type is integer. For now, we just keep it as a integer. So now simply I can call this value, that callable statement dot execute. So it will call a get balance with parameter value 3 that I am passing as a first parameter. So look at this. Now your ACNO will have a value as a 3. So now let's try to understood that select balance into amount. Whatever are the, sorry, let me just that bank table data. Okay, whatever are the value of balance, right, that will be stored into my amount variable, which is a out kind of variable from bank, where account number means where account number is equal to, you can say that whatever you are passing over here, that is in a account number. So look, let me just check it. I have one account number 13. Fine. So what I will do, I will pass that account number over here, something like 13. So now my query becomes something like this over here, that you can say that select balance into amount from bank where account number is equal to ACNO means 13, where account number is equal to 13. Fine. So now you have execute, and by end of these procedures, your amount variable will contain a value that is called something like 10,000 value. Fine. Now that value I want to retrieve it over here. So now what I can do, whatever that second parameter which I have registered out, right, that parameter now I can retrieve. So I can say something like callable statement dot get integer. Which parameter is your out parameter? That is my second parameter. So I'll say that cs dot get integer and my second parameter. So whatever value that has been stored into amount variable, that will be returned by this method and it will stored over here in your local variable. So now I am printing that balance is this. Okay, let's try to execute this particular code, something like this. We will run it. Okay, so look at this. What it is telling, balance is 10,000. Suppose now over here I'll say that bank like account number is also 5. Okay, let's say that account number is something like 5, and then I am going to execute it, or I am going to execute my code. Look at this, balance is 2400. So that's what over here, like balance is 2400. Is that clear? Whatever, now whatever account number that you will set over here, that balance it will retrieve. So now let's again go through our PPT. Okay, what we were discussing, we have a 3 kind of parameter. One is in, another one is out. In means what? You are passing parameter to the procedures. Out means what? Procedure is returning a certain value in your program. Now there are third option that you can also give. That is something like you can say that in out parameter. Fine. Means what? Your one variable, while you are calling a procedures, that variable will work as a in parameter, and at the end of your procedures, your parameter will work as a out parameter. So let's modify this existing code. Okay, means your same parameter. See over here, to pass a parameter inside the procedure, I am using ACNO. To get a parameter from the procedures, I am using a amount. That's why I declare it as a out. But what in out parameter is telling, that when you are calling the procedures, your parameter, within a parameter you will pass a certain value. At the end of your procedures, from the same parameter you can retrieve the another value. So let's let me demonstrate you something like this over here. Like I have one, let's take a normal name, variable in out. Okay, let me just, like it is case sensitive, not a case sensitive, then say that. Okay, let me take it number. Fine. Now see what I am telling, that select balance into variable from bank account where account number is equal to variable. So now what I did, that initially it's something like this. Look at this, your query will be compiled properly, it is working fine. Okay, it is compiled. So what I am doing, that when I'll call these procedures in a variable, I will set a certain value. So my procedure will be like select balance into a variable from bank where account number is equal to whatever that variable contains. Now look at the code, what changes that I need to make. First of all, now I just have a one parameter. Okay, so one question marks that I will set. Now I will register out the same parameter number 1 that I am going to register out, and when I want to retrieve, I will retrieve that value. So look at this. Now if I am going to run this particular code, right, then look at the output. You will get the same thing, like you can say that account number 5 that have a balance as a something like, you can say that 2400. So this time what happened, that whenever, look at this, whenever I set that set integer first parameter is equal to 5, so it's something like get balance 5, so that 5 will be assigned to your variable, right? Now look at this, when I'm going to register out this parameter and I'll call a execute method. So when it will call this procedure, initially value of variable is a 5. So over here it's something like account number is equal to 5. Now whenever you find out that account number is equal to 5, that value will be copied, or its balance value will be copied into a variable. So at the end of this query, right? At the end of this query, you can say that variable will have a new value. Say it's something like this. This is very simple. We need to understand the basic things. When I write down something like I is equal to I plus 5, okay? So when I say that I over here, so it contains its old value, and at the end of this equation my I will contain a new value. Exactly, it's like this, right? You can say that here variable contains the old value. At the end of this procedures, your variable will have a new value. So simply I'm going to save it, compile it, okay? And then now when I will call it from here, let's consider account number something like, instead of 5, let's take account number is equal to something like 13. Okay, so now if I will run this and look at the output, okay, so that is the 10,000. So this is all about, you can say that this is basically part of a database, but to develop a Java program you need to understand that in a procedure ideally we have, you can say that a parameter, your procedure, it completely depends on a procedures, okay? If procedure required, procedure can take a parameter. Now parameter will have a parameter type as well as parameter name. Plus over here we also have a mode, right? Mode means what? In mode, in the sense that you are just going to pass a parameter to your procedures. Out mode means your procedure is returning a certain parameters, and in out mode, in the sense your variable, when you call a procedure, your variable will work as a in mode. When that procedure is completed, you will get a certain data or certain required data in the same variable. That's why it referred as a in out and in out mode. So this is all about, you can say that your stored procedures, right? So you need to try it out as well, because this is again, you can say that very much important questions in terms of GTU exam as well as your technical knowledge. We have a 3 kind of statement. One is your normal statement, prepared statement and callable statement. So whatever we have discussed today, that's all about, you can say that, callable statement. So look at this. Now we are done with the driver type, we are done with the connection, we are done with the statement. Our next goal, that is on a result set. We want to focus. Now few topics are remaining in this chapter. One is a result set, another one that is a transaction management, and few things on a metadata, right? That we are going to cover. So I hope that you people will go through it. Stay at your home, fine, stay safe, and spare some time to improve your technical knowledge. That will help you. In our next session we will discuss more things on a result set. Fine, okay, thank you all of you, thank you very much.